Today I want to share with you how to make cream cheese. And this is a simple homemade cream cheese recipe that's going to make a block of cream cheese with just one ingredient and no cooking. Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary and welcome to Mary's Nest, where I teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods like bone broth, ferments, sourdough, and more. So if you enjoy learning about those things, consider subscribing to my channel. And don't forget to click on the little notification bell below. That'll let you know every time I upload a new video. Now you may see some recipes for making homemade cream cheese that involve heating milk and then adding some type of acid like a lemon juice or vinegar, and then separating the milk into curds and whey, and then taking the curds, the cheese, and putting it under pressure to try to make it into a block of cream cheese. But what I find with that is it can almost be more like a ricotta cheese or more like a cottage cheese that's been pressed down, or even like a paneer, the Indian cheese that you see in various Indian dishes. But that's not really how cream cheese is made in the factory. And what I'm trying to do is make a cream cheese in a sort of similar way, but an easier way than how it's made in the factory, so that the final product is very similar to that block of cheese or block of cream cheese that you would buy at your grocery store. And this homemade cream cheese can be used in any way that you would use that block of cream cheese that you would buy at the grocery store. And you can even take it one step further, that if you want to turn this into those cream cheeses that you see that are flavored in the round containers, you can then take this and whip it with an electric blender and keep it plain if you want, but it'll be incorporating all that air will make it very light and spreadable. Or at that time when you are whipping it, you can go ahead and add in chives or dried onions or some strawberries, whatever you like. So this is very versatile. Well, let's get started and make it. All you're going to need is a strainer and some type of vessel to catch the whey that we're going to strain off, and some type of cloth, or if you want to use coffee filters, you can certainly use that. I think if you've been with me a while, you know how I love using my flour sack towels for pretty much anything when it comes to straining, including my bone broth, if you've seen me do that. So I like to just cover my strainer with a cheesecloth, and then all you're going to need is a carton of yogurt. And you want a nice big carton. This is 32 ounces. And what you're going to want is a plain yogurt. Now I'm using a full-fat whole milk yogurt, and I highly recommend that because I think the end product makes the best cream cheese. But you can use the low-fat yogurt, and you can use fat-free yogurt if you want. You just want to make sure that it's plain yogurt, and you want it to just be yogurt. You don't want to use Greek yogurt because that's already been strained. Now we're going to take this through two steps. When we strain it, we're going to get something that's often referred to as yogurt cheese, and then what'll be down on the bottom will be the whey. And that's a relatively soft, very smooth type cheese, and I'll show you it at that phase. But then we're going to take it to a second step that's going to create the block of cream cheese. So all we're going to do is just take our yogurt and dump it right down into our lined strainer. That's it. Next, all I'm going to do is, since I'm using a flour sack towel, is to just throw this over to cover it, just to keep from any dust or anything getting onto my yogurt as it's straining. If you're using a coffee filter or a couple of coffee filters, you can just put another one on top just to keep it clean. And then you're going to go ahead, you're going to put this in your refrigerator, and you're going to let it drain for 24 hours. Now what I've got here is one that I've left straining for 24 hours. And as you'll see, we've got all this liquid down on the bottom, and that's the whey. And now, if we unwrap our strained yogurt, we have our yogurt cheese, and it just looks lovely. And yogurt cheese can be used 100% on its own by itself at this stage. You can add in some salt, you can add in some herbs and spices, you can add in some sweeteners. It's very versatile, and it's really a very lovely and light, sort of in a sense like a whipped cheese. Now, the next thing that you want to do to make it even more dense, similar to the product that we call cream cheese that we buy in the block at the grocery store, which was actually something that's becoming popular, I understand, in Europe, but it was actually something invented here in the United States by a farmer in the 1800s. And the way that it's made in the factory, and that's why I like using yogurt and not involving any heat, is that they take milk, they separate the milk into skim milk and cream. And then they add the cream back in different portions to make a full-fat cream cheese, a low-fat cream cheese, or they don't add any cream in at all, and it's just one of those fat-free cream cheeses. But unfortunately, with the fat-free cream cheeses, they have to add in other ingredients that I'm not fond of. But that's how it's made. And when they add that back in to get the amount they want, so say you're doing a full-fat cream cheese, they then have their milk and their cream, and they add in lactic acid and basically are culturing the milk and turning it into something that's somewhat thickened and sour. And then they strain that basically into curds and whey. And then they simply take the curds and package them up. There's a little more involved, you know, in terms of a factory if they want to add flavorings and how they pack it into the little containers and whatnot. But that's basically the process. So we kind of skip the culturing of the milk process and just start with a milk product that's been cultured and strain it into our curds and whey. Now, don't discard this whey, this liquid that you have down here on the bottom. This is very rich in probiotics, and it can be used in many ways. And I'll make a video in the future where I discuss all the different ways that you can use whey. But as I said, it's very rich in probiotics. So you can drink this. It's wonderful for gut health. You can use it to soak grains. You can use it in place of water when you're baking bread. There's a lot of different things that you can do with whey. So definitely hold on to that and look for that how to use whey video in the future. Next, you want to get some kind of container. And I just happen to have these little oblong ones, but really anything you have. If it's round, that's fine too. What you're going to need to do is get something, this is about, I think this is about 8 ounces, but it can be flexible, don't worry. And then you're going to want to get a little bit of cloth. If you're using coffee filters to do this, you can use coffee filter for straining. You can also use the coffee filters for this process as well. But I've just got a flour sack towel here, that just an old one that's been cut up. And so I'm just going to lay this right over my glass container. And you would do the same if you were using coffee filters, just you may need more than one. You just want to make sure that your glass container is lined. Now what you're going to do is take a spatula or a spoon, whatever you've got, and we're going to start scooping out our yogurt cheese and putting it into our glass lined mold in a sense, and just start packing it down into here. Next, once you get all your yogurt cheese into your lined container, you're just going to start to spread it down best you can. It's not an exact science, don't worry about it. Just try to fill in the nooks and crannies. And then take your cloth and just start to overlay it on top of the yogurt cheese. Bring in your other side pieces here, and you just want to get everything nice and compact. You can give it a little press down with your hands. Get that all tucked in nicely. Then what you're going to need, now if you have a container that has a lid, that's perfect. If not, maybe put a dish or something over here, something on top of here that's just going to weigh this down a little. So I'm going to go ahead and put this lid on with the fabric holding in the yogurt cheese. It's a very tight fit. Now we're going to put this into the refrigerator for about a week. And what's going to happen? Every little last bit of liquid, any little bit of whey or anything that may be left over that didn't drain out here, is going to be absorbed by the cloth or the coffee filters if you're using them, and is going to make a wonderful final product. Now you may be wondering, Mary, why can't I just leave my yogurt cheese to drain a little more over a couple of days? And you could do that, but I found that it just doesn't give quite the same consistency. And what can happen is sometimes almost like a little bit of a crust, if you leave it too long in the fridge, can start to form on the top of your cheese. And I also find that even if you tie up the whole thing, you may see some folks will, bring all of the fabric together and tie it up and maybe hang it over the bowl and allow it to drip. What I find is that leaving that in the refrigerator like that for too long an extended period, past that 24 hours, it can almost start to take on some of the aromas that are naturally occurring from other foods in your refrigerator. And so your cream cheese, so to speak, in the making that you're hoping to take past the yogurt cheese phase may actually start to take on some unwanted flavors. But taking this step protects it from odors and gets the last little bit of any liquid out. And then also, when you unveil it, so to speak, it makes for a lovely presentation if you want to use it as a block of cream cheese for an appetizer. You see they're very common, where you have a block of cream cheese and people will pour different things, like spicy jellies or shrimp and cocktail sauce, different things like that. This gives you the perfect presentation. Now I'm just going to go ahead and decant my whey and put this into the refrigerator, and then I'll show you how our final product turned out. And just a note about this, this is known as acidic whey, and it can last up to 6 months in your refrigerator. So don't throw this out. We'll talk about this another time. But let's get this cheese and let's see how it turned out, how our cream cheese turned out. Now this is one I've had in my fridge for about a week, and you're going to feel when you start to unveil it, your cloth is going to be very damp. And that's a good sign. Alrighty, let's pull back this last layer. Oh, it looks wonderful. I'll show you with a nice close-up picture. But it looks beautiful. Now, if you're going to use this in some type of recipe, maybe a baking recipe like making a cream cheese frosting, or a cake batter or a muffin batter that calls for cream cheese, or maybe a pasta dish or some other type of main dish meal that calls for cream cheese, you can store this. Go ahead and just wrap this right back up, put your lid on, and you can store this for about 2 weeks in your refrigerator, and it'll stay nice and firm and fresh. But if you'd like to unveil it and use it as an appetizer, you can certainly do that. And what you're going to want to do is simply get a plate, put it over your a plate that fits the container that you're using, and just turn it over like this. And then what we're going to do is lift out our container. We'll unveil this in a minute, but I just love how nice that looks. So now I'm just going to gently pull this cloth off, and I want to mention that you can also use cheesecloth for this process, and if you do, you will get the pattern on your cheese, which will look very pretty. You may just want to tap if any little pieces come out. It's no big deal, but look at that. Look at how lovely that looks. Homemade cream cheese. And then you can just pour anything on top. It makes a wonderful appetizer. Well, this just looks glorious. And I hope that you can see this up close. I'll put an overlay of an up-close picture. And now what I want to do is slice into it so that you can see the texture of this. And as you'll see, when you go to put your knife to slice it, you're getting the resistance similar to the very dense, thick product that you would buy as cream cheese at the grocery store. I'm just going to slice right down into that. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Look at that. I'll take a close-up picture so that you can see this. Glorious. Well, I really hope you'll give making homemade cream cheese a try. It's very nutritious and it's rich in probiotics because it's been made from yogurt. So it really makes it a much better product than what you can actually buy in the grocery store. And if you'd like to learn how to make more homemade dairy, be sure to click on this video over here where I show you how to make homemade cottage cheese, homemade ricotta cheese, homemade yogurt without a machine so you can make your cream cheese. And I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country kitchen. Love and God bless.